Welcome back, guys, to Construction Business TV in the East Idaho area. My name is Tyson, and I'm your local journalist and videographer for Construction Business TV, Idaho Falls, Idaho. We're doing a very special series of episodes, and this is episode number 1 of this special series. I kind of gave a little bit of teasers in the prior episodes I threw out that we were going to be having a special guest on for a number of subsequent episodes. I'm joined today by Rob Spear, the Executive Director of the Auditorium District. How are you today, Rob?
Tyson, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I'm really overjoyed to be able to have you on the channel today. I'm very grateful that you agreed to do this. And we had a conversation here a week or so ago about this kind of a project, and I think we kind of both share the same enthusiasm for what we can hope to achieve by having a platform where we can share some more information about the progress of the development of the Idaho Event Center.
I agree. I think it's a great opportunity to brief the public and let them know where we're at, let them know how we got to where we're at today, and hopefully provide monthly updates as we move forward with the project.
Exactly. And that's a good point to mention too, is for the people listening at home, that's our goal, is to actually come on once a month. Me and Rob will come up once a month and have a special interview style episode of CBTV Idaho, where we will discuss a number of things pertaining to the development of the event center month to month, all the way up until the opening date, which as of now is a tentative date is for the late October of next year. I've got a couple of bullet points here of what I want to make sure I cover. What people can expect from this series is a month-to-month series to keep the community up to date on the development of the event center. We want to include a behind-the-scenes look on the highs and the lows, the obstacles and the victories of this development, because I'm sure you know a whole lot more than I do that this probably hasn't been one of your smoother development projects that you've done in your career, I imagine.
Well, actually, COVID didn't help things, but I feel very fortunate to get involved in this because I felt that I provided the right leadership at the right time to help the board navigate to get us to this point. And, it worked out well, but like everything in life, you need a team, you need a lot of people behind the project, and I'm sure that we'll be able to get to some of those specifics later on today.
Excellent. And let's see, I'm sure we'll be including in other episodes, we want to take the time to publicly recognize certain extraordinary contractors. You mentioned that you've got a whole team under you. You've got companies that you subcontract certain construction projects out to for the development of this project. And you've mentioned to me in prior conversations how impressed you've been with the work that some of these contractors have done, and we want to make sure we give them their due spotlight.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Tyson. We did, our general contractors, Bateman Hall, they have partnered with Hogan Construction. So they together are really the construction manager on this project, and their responsibility is to get the bids and get all the bids from the subcontractors and then coordinate all the subcontractors. And I think we're very fortunate to have Bateman Hall Hogan part of this project because they sat in meetings, I think, starting 6 years ago. And they have really participated in every board meeting, and we're at the table every single board meeting to make sure this project was going to move forward. And so they dedicated an awful lot of their time. So we are very fortunate to have them involved and have them be our construction manager for this project.
I'm sorry, you said that was Bateman Hall, is that right?
Bateman Hall, and then they partnered with Hogan Construction. So I always say it's Bateman Hall / Hogan. They're the construction manager, general contractor for this project.
You would hold them equal in how they've been able to contribute to this project.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at, I mentioned we're in attendance for every board meeting. Mike Clements on the Bateman Hall side and Blake Davis on the Hogan side. I can't tell you how many hours of time that they dedicated to see this project move forward.
That's very cool. It's good to have people like that on your team.
Absolutely.
Finally on this agenda, and probably most importantly, is my hope, and I'm sure is yours too, Rob, that we give the community something to root for and to look forward to. Would you say that's fair?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the community is really our number one customer. They voted this district in 2011, and the sole intention, the sole mission purpose of this district was to build this event center, an event center that is truly going to provide every kind of activity that you can imagine at some point in time to this community. And so we'll talk, I'm sure, about some of the specific events that are planned for this. But like everything, this is going to be driven by the community. We want to have community input to see what kind of events that they want in this facility, and we want to deliver. And as we move forward every year, I think you'll see the types of events will adjust, because we really want to serve the community at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I'm excited. All right, getting into my first question, kind of a general, tell me a little bit about Rob Spear. Tell me a little bit about your background, your professional credentials.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I spent a lot of my time, growing up. I was fortunate enough to have some athletic ability, which allowed me to get an athletic scholarship, and I parlayed that into a bachelor's degree, and then went on and went to the University of Montana, got a master's degree in business. And then I had the opportunity to work for the state of Montana in a operational audit capacity. It was a neat experience, because what we did is looked at the efficiency and effectiveness of operations of entities that were established by statute. So it really provided me a great foundation for what I've done in later in my career. And then I had the opportunity to work in higher education for 29 years. In that environment, I did a lot of different things, from the Assistant Director of Business and Accounting Services to managing the Grants and Contracts Office, to being an Associate Dean, to having a stint as the Athletic Director. And, it was experience. Every one of those experiences provided me great background for this position here. And, when I was looking at this position, it was kind of neat, because everything that they were asking for was something that I had done throughout the course of my career. And I really thought that I could bring all those experiences together and help this district, this community, finally realize the building of an event center.
So you would almost feel like kind of everything in your life is led up to this, it seems.
In a way, in some ways, I'm not you probably see on the video, I'm not the youngest person. So in a way, this is kind of a capstone to a career that has been built on providing service and delivering projects. And so I really think this is a neat thing maybe to end my career on. So you're right. It seemed like everything came together for this one purpose.
So you're thinking that this may possibly be your big hurrah, your big legacy moment?
Yeah. Well, you never say never, but I think, it would be I want to make sure that this project gets completed. I want to make sure the facility opens. I want to make sure that the facility operates efficiently and effectively. I want to make sure that this facility is going to deliver and meet the needs of the community. So I still have a lot of time left, I think.
Tell me about some of the other developments that you have directed.
Well, number one, and I don't know if these are in order of importance, but number one is building relationships with people. Building relationships is a core of fundraising. So as you are aware, this project required a lot of fundraising, and we've had great success with that. It required some project management skills, because there were a lot of moving parts with this. It required business acumen. It required organizational skills. It required the ability to put together a plan, have some strategies in place, and really see things through. So again, I think I've accomplished many of those throughout my career. I've been successful in fundraising, successful with construction projects, certainly building relationships, running organizations, even though this is, I joke often that this is the best job I ever had, because I'm the only employee. And so staff meetings are awful short. I look in the mirror and say, hey, pick it up. But on the other side of that, I report to a 5-member board elected board, and they're my bosses. So, you do serve 5 masters in a way, but it's been a very good board, a board that's engaged, a board that's worked collectively towards fulfilling this mission of the community. So having that ability throughout my career to understand how boards work, to provide the right information, to provide them good quality information so that they can make the right decisions. Because board members, as you're well aware, they donate and dedicate a lot of their time. This board is not paid. They are simply serving this community. So it's up to me to make sure that they have all the right information so they can make, again, good decisions. So all of those things together, I think, tied into this position.
Okay. Very cool. So tell me about how your involvement first began with this project, because you did not come into this at the beginning when it was first passed in 2011, correct?
Correct. And as I mentioned earlier, the district was formed in 2011, and the history is they've had several executive directors, they've had several different board members, and I looked at it as an opportunity to bring stability into the organization, into the district, and I think that was a key. To have somebody that was going to stay, work through the tough issues, and deliver on this project. So again, I thought the position description fit all my skill set, and certainly I wanted to. I think it's not often in your career that you get an opportunity to do something that's never been done before. So if I look back, if you ask me the number one thing is why you wanted to do this job, is because building this facility has never been done before and probably will never be done again in this community. So that is a really, real big motivator for me, and something that, really continues to drive me every day, because it is really special to be involved in something this unique professionally.
I can agree with that. I can understand that. So, all right, so it started in 2011 was when the committee was formed. At what point did you arrive on the scene?
I started in April of 2019. And, it was obvious, what I did coming in here. You always assess the situation and try and determine what you can do and what you can bring to the table to help move this project forward. And as I've said a lot, it was clear, no fault of anybody. We have a committed board, people that, just needed maybe a little bit direction. So there were a lot of uncertainties out there in regards to the project. And probably one of the biggest uncertainties is the doubt of the community, whether or not this was ever going to happen. That was something I faced early on. It's like, another executive director, is this ever going to happen? And so that doubt was certainly there. And so it was really important to bring certainty to the situation. And I'll give you several examples. Number one is we had some estimated costs on what the facility was going to cost, but we never formally bid the project out. So we never had a hard number. So again, we worked with our general contractor, Bateman Hall Hogan, and we had a bidding process, and we ended up getting a firm number, a real number. It wasn't one that was estimated. So even before that, there were some unknowns with the property. The property was generously donated by Ball Ventures, and it's out there in a great location. It's right off of I-15. As you go from Idaho Falls to Pocatello, you can't miss it. And part of the land out there was filled with lava rock, had some unsuitable soil issues, and that was a huge issue because we didn't know what that cost was going to be to remove the lava rock and take care of all the unsuitable soils. So what we did, and that's a credit to our board, is they decided to embark on this early construction project. And that project, it was 2 phases. One is we constructed the building pad and got all the underground utilities in, took care of all the lava rock, took care of all the unsuitable soils. And then another piece to this whole project was, as part of the donation of land came a development agreement. This development agreement required the district to assume construction or reconstruction of Pioneer Road from the corner of Event Center Drive past the Event Center. And so that project was somewhat significant. It had some lava rock issues. It had some unsuitable soils. So those two projects combined, the pad was about $7 million and Pioneer Road was $1.6 million. So the beauty of doing that early and getting that out of the way is we made sure the project was shovel ready, ready to go vertical, but we eliminated a lot of the unknowns with the lava rock and the unsuitable soil. And the great news about all of that is we probably saved around $1 million from what was estimated it would cost to develop and build that building pad. So we are a step ahead there. So we got a real price. We took care of the unknowns with the soil and lava rock issues. We prepared the site. And then we also had to find a facility operator. And we ended up hiring Centennial Management. They have run the Maverick Center in West Valley, Utah. Centennial Management is a subsidiary of the Elmore Sports Group. In the Elmore Sports Group, I think they have 8 minor league baseball teams and 1 minor league hockey team. One of the minor league baseball teams is our Idaho Falls Chuckers here. And Kevin Green is that general manager. And Kevin was very involved in this whole process. And he is going to work with Elmore Sports Group, and they're going to supply the hockey team. So having that agreement to have somebody run the facility that was experienced was another thing that we created, and certainly, again, created a certainty from something that was very uncertain. And then probably the last thing I would say we did is we ended up finding how much it would cost. We found an operator. We took care of all the early construction pieces. Well, then we needed to know, well, how much financing can we generate? You know, we thought we knew how much we could get. So what we did is we hired a bond underwriter and worked with Raymond James, and they put together several scenarios, and we were able to figure out exactly how much we could finance because our revenues come from hotel room tax. So if you stay in a hotel here in the Idaho Falls city limit area, that's our district, is right in line with the city limits. So you stay in a hotel here in Idaho Falls, you pay a 5% room tax. And that money has been being collected since 2011. So that money, one, gave us the ability to do this early construction, and it also provides us an ongoing revenue stream that we were able to use and communicate to our bond underwriter. Here's what we're generating every year. What can we finance? And so they were able to put together a plan. And so we really knew how much money we were going to be able to generate once we financed the project. And the other thing that did, it really identified a true gap. The project's going to cost this much. We're going to be able to finance this much. How much do we really need to fundraise? Right. So long answer to your question there, but I think those are the things, you know, that when I first came is identifying those uncertainties, make them certainties, and then again, provide the board the right information to help make the decision to move forward. So everything was going according to plan, of course, and then COVID hit. So I mean, we don't have to get into details there because everybody has been impacted by COVID. And, you know, certainly when you look at, you know, our revenues being tied to hotel stays, that was brutal when COVID first hit because everything was shut down. But to a credit to where we live in this area, having the proximity to Yellowstone, proximity to Jackson Hole and the Grand Tetons, we've seen that once the economy opened up a little bit, travel took off here in this area. And so we certainly took a huge hit financially in 2020. You know, our revenues run around 2.5 million. We ended up 1.6 million in 2020. So a big financial hit, but not as big as some other areas, which really played a role in us going back to our bond underwriter and saying, hey, look at COVID had an impact on us. But look at what our revenues are doing, especially when we got in the August, September, October timeframe, and you could see people were traveling and they're coming to this area. And that played a vital part into us being able to secure financing because we, convinced in the right way with data that we are an entity that is going to be vibrant. We're an entity that is in an area that's going to continue to grow. And let's finance this project. So all those things, took a long time really to bring together. But, here we are in, what we ended up doing in March of 2021, even though we bid the project in 2020, we had to rebid it again because we couldn't hold what they call a guaranteed maximum price. So the general contractor will go out and he'll get all the bids from the subcontractors and throw on their general conditions and determine the overall project cost. And when you have a construction manager, general contractor, it's called a guaranteed maximum price. So we were able in 2020, so we ended up receiving a very favorable GMP, guaranteed maximum price, of about $50,252,000. So fast forward to 2021, and certainly going out for bid again in a time of uncertainty, understanding supply chain issues, we were nervous about what that bid would be. We were hoping that we could control those numbers again. And, fortunately for us, that GMP, the new GMP, came in around $50,600,000. So really only $350,000 more than it was in 2020. And that number there was really a driver to convince the board that, hey, now is the time to move forward, because we were able to get such a doable GMP, one that we could finance, one that we could afford. And I don't know if you have the question later on, and I've certainly heard it, people say, well, why are you building now during this COVID thing and with all the supply chain issues and everything? Well, the answer is this district was chasing that number, that guaranteed maximum price, forever. And we finally caught it. And we decided, we needed to act on it, because it's possible that if we didn't act on it and we waited to have all these supply chain issues sort out and thinking that maybe construction costs would go down. And by the way, there's no indication that's going to happen. We thought now was the time to act, because we could have taken the easy road. The board could have said, let's delay it again and just wait and see. And I'm glad the board did, because we needed to act. Again, we caught that number. We found a way to finance this thing, and we needed to act on it. And because who knows, nobody can predict the future. And it's quite possible that number could have, again, got away from us. So that's why we chose to go ahead and start building now.
I think that will be very cool information for the community to understand. So I'm glad that you shared that. I know that it was the first time that we met was at the groundbreaking ceremony of the auditorium district, or for the event center. And one thing that you had mentioned when we were having a conversation during that after the groundbreaking ceremony was one of the first things that you look for in, I guess, determining whether or not to take on a project of this size is whether or not there is you called it a community want to, kind of in quotes, a want to. Can you, so maybe explain that a little bit more? Like, what do you mean by a want to in the community?
Well, again, you go back to the history, and the community voted this district in to build an event center. So there was a want to there. And then the more I interacted with people in this community, especially some of the well-known business people in here, knowing that they needed, this community needed an event center, needed something to help them recruit, attract, and retain employees for one thing, and really to provide entertainment for the general population. So there was a want to by prominent members of the community to make sure we got this thing done. So, that's the thing. If there's no want to, then the project's not going to happen. But the want to was alive and well. And I'll go back to, I mentioned creating some of those certainties. And I mentioned before about identifying what the true fundraising gap, or the true gap of our financing was. And so having that number, and, it was around, roughly $10 million. And then to be able to go out into the community and talk to people and say, hey, look, here's where we're at. We need your involvement. And hey, look, when you're fundraising, sometimes it's not easy. And we struck out a lot, but we kept at it. And I think one of the turning points for me was, well, obviously, when you get a big naming right, $4.5 million from the Mountain America Credit Union, that gave the project a shot in the arm. But then we scrambled a little bit. We had a lull, and we really needed to have some local people step up. And lo and behold, we had a group, Teton Auto Group. Mario Hernandez and his family stepped up, last around December. And that seemed to give the community confidence that, this was going to happen. Gave the community confidence that he had a well-known, established person here in the community who's well thought of, got behind this project, and that gave us some momentum. And then we were able to parlay that into a $2 million gift from Golden Valley Natural and the Hero Brand beef jerky. And we got $500,000 from Pepsi and Admiral Beverage. And we ended up getting $1 million from Blue Cross of Idaho for naming of the conference space. So we've had a number of wins. Bingham Healthcare contributed $400,000. And then with this facility, we have a number of suites. And by the way, all the suites are sold. We have commitments for all of those. We do have some premium loge boxes available. But back to the whole point of the want to is having some of the local community people, business people, prominent people get behind this. That was really helpful. But you could tell early on that this community had that capacity to be able to assist this project and financially assist this project in the manner in which we needed.
So I'm imagining I remember full well the want to in 2011. I remember voting for that bill. So I remember there being the big hype about that. And obviously, there's since within the last 8 months to a year, there's been a huge definite want to again, as you've been obtaining all of these backers to help fund this. And just this is just to play devil's advocate, I imagine that there was a period of time where it was a little bit tougher to get that want to attitude from the community. Because I remember, if I'm not mistaken, when they first passed the bill, when they first passed the motion in 2011, I believe that their tentative completion date for that event center was going to be about 2.5 years. Does that sound, I don't know if you are aware of that at all, but that's what I remember hearing. So it 2.5 years came by, they hadn't even broken ground yet. And I imagine that probably started to kind of hit the morale of the community.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what transpired in the past, but I do know that there were several cost estimates that had happened throughout this time frame leading up to when I arrived on board. But again, nothing was in certain. There are all these projections and a lot of unknowns. But I do believe everything happens for a reason, and prior boards and prior executive directors, they all did great work. I mean, they all did some work. You look at Cindy Ozaki was an executive director at the time, was very instrumental in getting the construction manager general contractor authority. The state of Idaho at the time couldn't have a construction manager general contractor, and she was instrumental in helping get that through the state. So, everybody contributed at some point, whether it was a prior board member, prior executive director, but they all played a role. I was just fortunate to come along maybe at the right time where, we were able to put all the pieces together, kind of coordinate everything,
cap it off at the end. So it sounds like you would definitely agree that the project would not be where it is now if it weren't for the contributions made by every executive director that has led up to this point.
Absolutely. I think they all had a role. They all played a part in it, just like all previous board members. They all had a role, and that's why we are very careful during that groundbreaking to acknowledge, the past board members, past executive directors, because they should have, and I hope that they felt, a sense of accomplishment that day, as much like I did.
I'm sure they did. So to kind of begin kind of the wrapping up of this conversation, I want to pull back a little bit into what forms of entertainment is this building going to be constructed to be able to accommodate and host? What can people around the East Idaho area look forward to getting from this building once it's opened up?
Well, multi-use facility, and I truly mean multi-use. And number one, on the event center side. Now remember, this is not only will have the event center, but it's also going to have conference space. So there's 11,000 square foot conference space that's attached to the facility. I think it's going to provide well-needed conference space for the community and the opportunities for businesses to host concerts, get away, to have strategic planning sessions, whatever. And then the neat thing about it is we can actually have very large conferences, because we could spill into the event center if needed, where we can curtain it off and make it more intimate, 500, 1,500 seats, whatever. But the facility, talking on the event side, hockey will be the anchor tenant. Again, we mentioned that Centennial Management and the Elmore Sports Group will provide the hockey team. We're going to start as an NA3HL hockey program. It is a hockey league that is, the ages of the players are about 16 to 22 years of age. Those players aspire to get noticed to become professionals or go play in college. So I think you're going to have quality hockey. The league that they'll play in is a league that is very regional. It almost mimics the Pioneer League baseball. I mean, there's teams in Great Falls, Helena, I believe, Butte, Bozeman, Gillette, Wyoming. So there's going to be a lot of local flavor here with the hockey team. So hockey will be the anchor tenant. But the thing to understand with hockey, there's going to be 26 hockey games a year. And when you project that over 120 event days a year, hockey's barely going to account for 15 or 20% of the activity in the event center. I know early on people are saying, well, this is just going to be an athletic facility. Well, no, not even close. I mean, hockey's going to be the anchor tenant, because you have to have an anchor tenant to have secure annual sponsorships and things of that nature. So the other thing, we'll have family shows. I think we have projected in the first pro forma that we put together like 6 to 8 family shows. Family shows being things like Disney on Ice, Cirque du Soleil. We're going to have concerts, musical concerts, where we'll have the ability to do a full house concert or a half house concert. It might be an older group that you might only do a half house concert. A more prominent group, you'll do a full house concert. We'll have comedy shows. I do think some things you're going to see quite often in the facility are what they call evergreen events, hunting expositions, fly fishing expositions, because where we are located. And so you'll see some activities and events tied to that. You'll also be able to, we'll have a lot of different professional type conferences, events, home shows, anything that you can imagine, because it's going to be true multi-use, multi-purpose. Rodeo is earmarked to be able to be in this facility. Monster trucks, so extreme sports, high school sports. I know there's a very big interest in this community to host high school state basketball and volleyball and wrestling tournaments on this side of the state. Everything's been going to Boise. So now we have a facility that will be able to host these events on this side of the state. And so we're going to put together an active group to see what we can attract from that standpoint. So hopefully, Tyson, you get the flavor that this thing is truly going to be multi-use, multi-purpose, and we will take recommendations from community on what they want to see in this thing and see if we can accommodate them. I really think Idaho Falls is in a great routing area. Because we are somewhat, north of Salt Lake. We are east of Boise. We're west of Billings. And so if you have a group playing in Billings or Boise or Salt Lake, and they're coming through Idaho Falls, they have to get it, whether they're going to Billings from Salt Lake or Boise from Salt Lake or Boise to Salt Lake. Hey, take one night off, stop in Idaho Falls. We have a great facility for you. And
make another extra couple $1 million. Why not?
Yeah. So we have a great facility for you to perform. So I think the sky's the limit.
That's cool. So kind of piggybacking off of that question is what kinds of events are you personally looking forward to attending with your family?
Well, I'm going to be very interested in all of them because I mentioned earlier, I want to see this thing be successful, and I want to make sure that, we have it set up right, that we accommodate people right, that we're able to provide the right concessions, that we're able to provide the right amenities, that people feel welcome in the facility, they feel safe in the community. And I do want to touch on that a little bit. I'm very proud of our board for making the decision. If there was one benefit from COVID, it allowed us to pause a little bit in the design of the building. And one of the things that we had to reevaluate, one, because the air handling units that were intended to be put on in this facility were no longer being manufactured. So we had to find another unit, but it allowed us to find ways to really improve and ensure the right air quality is in this facility. So I'll give you an example. The air quality in this facility in the event side is going to turn over, I think, 1.9 times an hour. Hospitals are 2 times an hour. And so the airflow in here is going to be very good. We're going to make sure we have increased MERV filters. It's actually a thicker filter, so we're going to be able to filter out, some impurities in the air. We will also put in what they called UVGI lights in the air handling units, so they zap airborne pathogens as they come in through that as the air gets recirculated. We will certainly have a flushing strategy where we flush the facility with outside air, because the experts will tell you the best air is outside air. It's the cleanest. And we'll flush it before an event, we'll flush it after event. And then certainly we'll have, unbelievable surface cleaning protocols in place. So I think when you come to a facility here, it's going to be a safe facility to be in.
So even like once it's, because I imagine, organizing my thoughts. Once it's open, a lot of people are flooding into it. It's going to be like, I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to have concerns about, like just in a post-COVID atmosphere, in a post-COVID world, having that many people in one area. But you're saying that you guys have a very state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line air circulation system in place to help mitigate any risk.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you used the word state-of-the-art, because as we were talking with our HVAC engineer, and we were talking about all these mitigation strategies that I was talking about, and I said, so when you look at event centers across the country, given the mitigation strategies that we're incorporating in this facility, can we say this is state-of-the-art in regards to the HVAC? And he said yes. So, I know the board feels good about it. I feel good about it. And, moving forward in the post-COVID world, something that's always going to be on our mind and something that we need to do a good job of is to try to mitigate it. And I think we are. So
it sure sounds like you guys have been doing your due diligence for it.
Well, that's the beauty of our board. I mean, they're a very competent group, and they look at things from a lot of different perspectives, and, all the credit to them.
So out of curiosity, I think the really last question I have, I know that you and your family had moved to the East Idaho area in order to take on this project. Is that right?
Right.
Based on your time here and what you've gotten to experience here in the community, and once this is built, do you plan on sticking around?
Oh, absolutely. We purchased a home here. We're Idaho Falls people now. We, live here. We don't have any plans on relocating in the near future, and we certainly enjoy the area. I think anytime you have an opportunity to live in a place in Idaho, you're fortunate. I think the COVID world has taught us that, given the influx of people coming into states like Idaho. Yeah. And so it's amazing to me how proactive that Idaho Falls is and how much energy there is in this community. I mean, certainly you have some huge businesses driven by the Idaho National Lab, but you've brought in people that are extremely competent and extremely proud to live here. And that's why that's a huge motivator to me, because I want them to have a facility that they can be proud of as well. And I'm talking about our event center.
Well, I imagine the community is going to be very grateful for what you were able to play a hand in putting together and making a reality. I know it's something that it's something that the community has been dreaming of for a long time.
Very rewarding for sure. But again, it takes a team, takes an army of people to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I worded my comment carefully in saying that you played a hand in it, because I know that you would not accept, full credit for this, as it is. There's so many people that played a hand in putting this together.
Absolutely. Well said.
Is there anything with this introductory episode? Is there anything else that you would want the community to know, or maybe to give them something to look forward to in the next episodes?
Well, I think what we'll touch on a little bit is opportunities, for people to get involved in this. And we have a little brochure, says help create a community legacy. And we want people in this community. I mean, obviously, we've been targeting businesses and people that can contribute a significant amount. But at the end of the day, we have other packages for people that can be involved in, whether it's buying a brick for $250, getting your name permanently engraved on a seat in the facility for $750. Those are ways that we want other community members to get involved and help create this community legacy and be a part of it. And like I tell a lot of our prospective donors, is that I want you to be on the donor wall. I want you to have a prominent place up there, so when people come in, they can see that your business was very instrumental in getting this facility built. So maybe later on when I can show you a copy of the brochure, and we can talk in a little bit more detail about that.
That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to digging in more of that with you.
All right, Tyson, thank you. Enjoyed it.
Episode 1 of Construction Business TV Idaho, I guess we could call it the Auditorium District series. I think that's as good a name as any that we can give it. We're going to get back together with Rob Spear and go more into detail about some of these aspects, some of these logistics behind building the event center, anything that he wants the community to know about. And we're going to be doing this on a monthly basis, all the way up until the opening date of the Mountain America Event Center in Idaho Falls.